All right, so let's go through maybe channel by channel of digital marketing, and we can say how we're using it and how we're prompting it, in which AI platforms we're using more for certain tasks and less for others right now. So AI is moving quick, and these platforms are changing very quickly. And so let's first talk on the strategic side. I know some of you mentioned that you use it for strategy. So there's pros and cons. So here's kind of what we do. So for us, first of all, we have paid accounts for all the platforms we use for our own company. But then if for clients, we use our brain first, quite frankly, because we have years of experience. That's what companies are paying for. They're not paying for us to just go copy paste from, seriously,
Right.
from like ChatGPT. But what we find is, so that's the first thing. The second thing that we do is, if we're using it for a client and the client says, yes, we want you to use it to help, we use it as a tool to enable us to be more efficient, to do a lot more work and scale faster, not a replacement for what we do. And so we actually, not too long ago, Catherine, actually last week, we spoke at Brandeis University at a bunch of marketing students, undergrad and grad students. And these kids were all in on AI, obviously, right? And our advice was, learn it without AI first. Know how to do all of it first, and then use it as a tool. Because what happens is, and what we find is on the strategic side of things, Catherine likes to call it the drift. AI tends to drift a lot, especially on the strategic side of things. And what that means is, you'll ask it a question, and what it does is it doesn't possibly know every variable of your business and what you're asking, even if you prompt it and you tell it everything. Many times what it gives you is cookie cutter responses of what you want to hear and not what you should hear. Okay? So that was our advice to those college students, was like, look, learn how to do all this stuff without AI, pretending AI didn't exist, right? Because prior to 3 years ago, AI didn't exist. We didn't use AI, right? So just like all of us. So that's the first thing. Want anything to add on that? And I'll continue.
It is a time saver to use it for any task.
It is.
But we need to just be able to look at it and say, part of me doesn't think that what it's telling me to do makes sense.
Right.
And then you can push back on it and get it to refine its response.
We have some crazy conversations, seriously, where we push back. Oh yeah. There are times we'll say to do X, Y, Z, and I'll say, you're actually wrong. Here's why you're wrong. I'm telling you you're wrong. Right?
And then
it'll say, oh yeah, you're right. Okay. Really? You fold that quickly?
Why didn't you say that in the first place?
Right.
And then I'm gaslighting, and you don't know. Sometimes you just get like stuck.
Right. Yeah. So
you have to know what wrong looks like, and you have to know what right looks like.
Okay. Another piece of advice is, if you're using it for work, right, for business, have a separate business account that's paid. Then you're only using it for that purpose. It has issues crossing the personal with the business. And so, like, for instance, if I'm using it for personal, I'll do incognito chat. So it doesn't learn and remember that of what I'm asking it, because then many times it'll then take that information and populate it into the business, which we don't want.
Right.
If we're using it for a client on our end, we literally sign up, and the client knows this, we'll sign up for a whole account that's just for them, separate. So then what it does is, we're training it and teaching it like an assistant, basically. And that's how we, at a high level, use AI. And what we do is, we're using it as, we treat it like a human, like it's an assistant. It's not the expert. That's, I think, where people are going to go wrong. My opinion, in about a year, 2 years, people that are using it for heavy duty strategy and not really vetting it, they're going to go through they're not going to see results. And they're going to be like, oh, geez, what do we do? And then they're going to come to people like us, hey, can you guys help us? Yeah, we can. But what happened, right? Or where'd you get that advice? From chat. Okay. Well, if it's giving you that advice, it's going to give you the same advice for probably everyone, right? So I think, so from the strategic side of things, so the advice would be, have separate accounts, make them paid accounts. The paid pieces function better. We've tested it on all the AI platforms. They really do, because it'll learn the business, it'll learn the type of work, it'll learn the questions you're asking, and it'll retain that. and then it'll bring it up. Oh yeah, based on what you're doing with X, Y, Z, here's what we recommend.